Now, to reflect on the legacy of the 1956 women and what lessons can be learnt, I'm joined now by a board member of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Constantinides. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. Happy Women's Day. Of course, the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation took it upon themselves to ensure that the voices and the work of the women of 1956 continue to resonate with the women of 2021. Let's talk about yesterday's event and what you were aiming to achieve.
Thank you so much, and good morning to the viewers, and a very happy Women's Day to you too. I think it's really important as a board member of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. I'm very proud that the foundation continues to really zone in on important days that are public holidays in our country. They're not just another public holiday. A day like today is significant because we need to remember the women, the heroes of our freedom and democracy. We need to celebrate those women, and we can never let their legacy die. And so days like yesterday are incredibly important because they allow us an opportunity to remember those legacies, the stories. And just like Auntie Sophie said so pertinently yesterday, we need to be able to not only remember the stories of the women who have gone before us, but we need to take the opportunity to speak to one another as young women leaders today, as leaders who, we have access, for example, to Auntie Sophie. We need to use these resources to share their stories and to write their stories while they are still with us, and while they can still share their unbelievable wisdom, courage and bravery. And we need to not only, as women specifically, the one message that came quite strongly through yesterday was that we need to be able to write our own narrative. Unfortunately, we still live in a patriarchal society where a man's story will be heard before a woman's. But when we stood at the gravesite yesterday of Masisulu, and many others, we stood there and had to understand what really was the legacy left behind. Who were these remarkable human beings? We can't just label them as powerful women. They were giants in their own standing. And without them, our history would be very different. So it is really very important for us to take important days such as this and to remember why we celebrate them and why they live on our calendar as South Africans.
And the culture of gender inequality continues to undermine the efforts towards development and growth, especially when it comes to the economy, which has shifted and affected women in the most detrimental way now more than ever during COVID-19. You speak about Auntie Sophie de Bruyn, and she encouraged women to continue fighting for gender equality. What does the road ahead look like when it comes to this ongoing fight?
Let's be honest. Unfortunately, in South Africa, women are not safe. It doesn't matter who you are and where you are, you're not safe anyway. We live in fear as women, and this is a fundamental daily struggle for us. Women are not safe, and there is a lack of justice in the space, because how can it be in the year 2021 that women are violated in the way that they are? We can't just have, an outrage when something horrific happens that makes it to the front pages. Because the truth is, we have also become numb to these stories. They happen every single day in the communities where we live, in the buildings that we occupy, in the spaces that we live in. And so I think it's really important that not only her call, but that of many activists around the country who continue to do this important work on a daily basis. Today must be a day to amplify that message, but we have a very long road ahead. And as women, not only in the gender-based violence space, even within the boardroom, in the corporate space, in every facet of society, women need to continue taking up their role, and not only just having any seat at the table, but having a seat of power at the table. Because women must not be used as tokens. We must be able to sit at a table and have the power and authority to make decisive decisions that change whatever it is, that landscape, that discussion, that really formulate and shape those discussions and spaces. Women need to be able to be courageous enough to continue really fighting for their space. And once a door opens, try and take as many other women through that same door of opportunity in that moment of opportunity.
How do we then shift the narrative as women to come together collectively to face these challenges and come out with a collective message of change?
You know, I think that there's so many things to reflect on an important day like this. But one that I would really encourage women to reflect on internally is, how do we treat other women? How do we really encourage women in our own spaces? How do we occupy a space that allows for other women to also shine? I think that sometimes we forget that the enemy is not always external, but sometimes it's in the very circles that we operate in. And this might be something that's really not, famously, it won't land famously with many people. However, the truth is the truth. We as women need to be strong enough to be able to share that light of what it means to be a courageous, strong woman. We need to be able to share that light and put that spotlight on other women as well. We need to be writing our own journeys continuously and sharing the incredible stories of success, of hope that exist in our very communities. You mentioned earlier how women have really been at the brunt of what COVID-19 has meant. And I think it's important that we celebrate the success of how women have overcome those struggles in the very communities. We're looking at the unsung heroes who bring hope and make hope come alive every single day, not only for themselves and their families, but their communities. And these are the heroes of our society. So I think today must be a really reflective opportunity for us to not only look at where we are as South Africa, not only to look at what can we do collectively to collaborate as civil society with government in the space of gender equality, of really driving that conversation forward, but to also look at the pain and struggle of women in our very lives. Those that live amongst us, you know, sometimes life just happens so quickly and we forget to really reflect and see what is it we can do in our individual space, in the space that we own, from the corner of the world where we sit. What can we do daily to really uplift and strengthen the women around us in order for us to collectively move forward and have a journey ahead where we all see the same vision and purpose?
Catherine, you spoke earlier about how it's really important to not regard today as a mere public holiday and to really sit down and introspect on its impact, especially as thousands of women came together, more than 5 decades ago to make sure that their voices are heard. How then do we as women in society encourage one another? As you touched slightly on COVID-19, we know that the majority of people who have lost their jobs in South Africa are women who are at home and having to deal with the childcare and household matters and not get paid for it, but expected to continue as normal. How then do we ensure that the message resonates with those women to ensure that they can stand on their feet and also find power within?
No, I think that we really have to find a way where we can all create safe spaces for women to have real conversations. I think that so often it's not just about the public gatherings or the public events that we hold where we commemorate and where we celebrate the powerful women who have really been the giants of our history. But it's really about also creating the safe spaces in our very communities at a grassroots level where we allow women the opportunity to truly express themselves without judgment, allowing them the opportunity to see that we actually all have so much more in common than we even think. I think that so often being a traumatized nation because violence and so many crime it's such an unfortunate part of who we are and how we live and the fear we carry with us on a daily basis. We almost protect ourselves from each other. COVID has even made that, more prevalent, where we hold ourselves back. We don't share as much as we would have normally, and it's now just worse. We need to create safe spaces where we actually engage with one another one-on-one. We create safe spaces where we speak to the people in our home, the people that we work with, and truly understand the struggles. Only when we really put all the broken pieces on the table together in a safe space can we understand what we need to do collectively to move forward and to ensure that no woman is left behind. It doesn't matter if it is a domestic worker in your home, if it is somebody who works in your office space, somebody who used to work in your office space but was one of the people that got retrenched. How do we reach out to the people in our direct circles? Let us think of the practical things that we can do. Instead of always thinking of the bigger picture, let's think of the small practical things that each and every one of us could go out and do and really focus on during this month of Women's Month. And let us find ways where we can be a support structure to each other and to those women who fill our lives.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you for your time and sharing those inspirational words. Catherine Constantinides, who is the board member of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, really speaking about the role of the women of 1956 and the very powerful lessons that can still be learnt and executed by the women of 2021. We continue to highlight phenomenal women. We'll be speaking to legal analysts at the International Commission of Jurists about the Constitutional Court's considerations on the UN International Convention on Civil and Political Rights in the former President Jacob Zuma matter. That conversation and a lot more coming up in a short while. Stay tuned.